So this was kind of what supplies you need. You need 4 peppermints. You can use a cup, bowl, or pan. And then you need 4 liquids. So you need cold water, hot water, vinegar, and oil. And I didn't specify on the vinegar and oil, so I figured you may have some vinegar and oil in your kitchen, or Miss Monica provided you guys with some. So you can use that. And so I have mine set up here. First thing we're going to do is a scientific method. So normally when you're conducting an experiment, you don't want to just do the experiment and then put the results. You kind of want to form a hypothesis. So it's kind of what you think is going to happen, what you expect to happen. So your hypothesis is kind of just to educate a guess. You do some research before you form that hypothesis. So for this one, what we could do is peppermint is sugar. And so you could look up what happens to sugar with different liquids. And then depending on that research, you would take a guess as to which one you think is going to dissolve the quickest. Because that's what we're kind of watching with this experiment, right? Is that what y'all noticed when you did the experiment? What that change was with the hypothesis is which one do we think is going to dissolve the best or the quickest? Which one's going to do the best? Which liquid? So that would be your first thing. And then you're going to test that hypothesis by doing the experiment itself. So your guess could be that we think the oil, which we've already talked about, it could be that we think that one's going to dissolve the quickest. And then we do the experiment, and as we've already mentioned, it did not dissolve. Mine's still sitting over here. It's been a couple of hours, and there has been no change to that peppermint. So we were wrong, right? But that's okay. That's the whole point of an experiment, is that we test something to see if that will actually happen. If it doesn't happen, then we need to go back to the drawing board possibly and fix our hypothesis, or draw the conclusion that we were wrong and this is what actually happened. And that's the whole point of science. That's one thing I love about science. And then even this experiment, you could expand on it. So you do it with peppermints, and you go, okay, well, what's the difference in peppermints versus hard peppermints versus soft peppermints? I'm not sure what peppermint you gave them, but that could be an added step to this science experiment, is try different types of candies, try different things. And we have our control. After you do this, you have a kind of a control one, which is the water. But once we know that what's the results from this one, that would be kind of your control, what we expect to happen, and then add on to that. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and experiments are great to do. I love doing them and trying new things. And so we're going to do the experiment, and this is where I'm going to share my camera for those that haven't done it, and y'all have, so you can kind of see the process. All right, can y'all still kind of see that? Okay. All right, so I have here 4 different ones. So in my coffee cup, I have the hot water. In this one, I have the cold water. And of course, you see I have the vinegar. And I just picked up, I had canola oil. So that was what I used. That's what I had. So, and then as you can see in each little bowl, I've got the peppermints already placed. I'm going to pour just a little bit to kind of cover it, as everybody can. Now here's the cold. Then we have our vinegar. And then the last one is our oil. And now I just got distilled white vinegar. Monica, what type of vinegar did y'all use?
That's what we used as well, but our oil was vegetable oil.
Oh, okay. All right. Still very similar, so that's totally fine. And so I'm going to try to hold this to where y'all can see. So
here, the hot bowl, the The color is bleeding into the water.
Yeah, y'all see that?
It's awesome.
So,
Yes.
so that's the first one. This is our tap water one. And you can also see the vinegar. So both the vinegar and tap water are both, as well as the hot water, are doing that. So I guess and I should have asked which one do y'all think during our scientific method. I just went over it. Sorry about that one. Which one do you think is going to dissolve the quickest?
When I was doing my experiment, I thought the hot was going to dissolve the quickest, but it was actually, can I say which one was the quickest for me? The vinegar one dissolved the fastest.
Well, that's interesting because you know which one dissolved the fastest for me during the first experiment was the hot.
Oh.
And then, so mine, so you could also, even with that experiment, the hypothesis, you could, I thought it would be hot water, vinegar, cold water, and then oil was what I thought the combination would be, right?
Good hypothesis.
Yeah, that's my hypothesis. Well, I was wrong. So for mine, and I'll show you, I took pictures, so hopefully y'all can see. So mine was the hot water, the cold water, vinegar, and then of course oil still sitting over there. It hasn't changed. So we'll keep that on there so y'all can kind of, we'll come back and check on it so y'all can watch and see. Okay.
Music. Which one did you think was going to dissolve the fastest?
Which one did you think? This one.
The vinegar.
Yeah.
Oh, the vinegar one you thought? Okay. What about Bennett? Or was that Bennett speaking?
That was Bennett.
Okay. Isaac, what about you?
I thought the vinegar was the fastest.
You thought the vinegar? Okay. All right. That's
Is Abby
understandable.
with us? Abby, are you the PC owner?
Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here. Which one did you think was going to dissolve the fastest?
Hot water.
The hot water. Okay. And another thing that if you wanted to test this again is changing the heat on the oil. I'm curious to see if that would change it. Just a thought is to try hot, which of course you would need parent supervision and you would need to be really careful, but is to heat it up a little bit in a pan or something and then see if the peppermint changed. But you know, we're talking about these peppermints and how they worked. And so we've got the experiment going, and I'll try to go back so y'all can see it. But what we were kind of doing with this one is we're trying to dissolve the sugar in a liquid. That's kind of our science that we're doing. And for science, sugar dissolving is actually a physical change. It's not necessarily a chemical change. I think that could depend on the different types of liquids you use, which ours maybe would fall under that chemical change because we're using the different liquids like vinegar and sugar. You know, that's has a chemical kind of thing. But for just sugar and water is just a physical change. So what is the physical change? Do you know what a physical change? Think physical. What's something physical? Would that be like touch or with the physical change, it would be it dissolving. So that's going to be your physical change. Your chemical change is when it produces a new chemical product. So if you put sugar into something and it changed and did a whole nother chemical, that would be a chemical change. So like I said, no new chemicals are necessarily formed in this, so it's more of a physical change. But these are some examples of chemical changes. So, and I put down on here where I've got my references from, but you can see we have like cooking an egg is actually a chemical change. And also baking a cake. I mean, you're putting it together, multiple ingredients, and it's going from a liquid to a solid. It's also a physical change in a way, but those are some chemical change examples. And a chemical reaction is a process in which one set of chemical substances is transformed into another. In other words, two or more chemicals combine to make two completely different chemicals. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going with the sugar dissolving and the peppermints dissolving, because peppermints are made from sugar. So here's kind of what happened. I'm going to go back and share what I've currently got going on. So do y'all see a difference? What have y'all noticed a difference in the peppermints?
We're losing their color.
Losing their color, that's right.
That was like that.
And this one kind of, you can, I don't know if you, this is the hot water. So it's losing its change in texture too. Can y'all notice that? The top that doesn't have all the liquid over it looks a little different than the bottom texture. And then you've got, here's the cold water. And then here's the vinegar, and there's the oil. Oil has no change. And I will say, I think this depends on the amount of liquid you use. So I don't have as much liquid in my hot water as I do my cold water and vinegar. So that can also make a difference. More liquid could mean it's going to dissolve quicker. So that may be why we got a different outcome the first time, was that I had more liquid because this was covered. I didn't pour enough. So that would be something with our experiment that we would, sorry, it's a little rocky. Something we'd want to control, which Miss Monica probably did. She gave you the same amount of liquid for the vinegar and oil-ish. That's probably something for next time, I would make sure so that because every time you test, whenever you do a test, an experiment, let's say, you're going to have people that want to copy your experiment. And they're going to want to see, I'm going to add a little extra liquid to that one. They're going to want to see if it actually works. So you want to keep that experiment pretty exact. You want the liquids to be exact and everything so it can be replicated and they should get the same result. And I'm sorry about that. So we didn't have the maybe same results, and that would be something to try, is everybody do a half a cup of water next time. And we'll see if that changes the results and makes them equal across the board.
Yeah.
So now I will say with my first experiment, I was a little better about making sure that the peppermint was covered. So I was going to share my results, and you guys tell me what happened with yours while we're doing this, okay? So here's what was first start out. This was in like the first minute or two, the change in those. And it was pretty quick. And so you can see like the hot got pretty quick. And it was the first one I poured versus the other one. So what about y'all? What was the first change you noticed?
The hot water, actually. Before the hot water lasted, it still changed all the way. Plus, It was like all the redness on it was like, it was just gone.
Okay. So it went pretty quick. Okay. All right. What about Isaac and what's the other name? Abby. Isaac and Abby, what did y'all notice with your experiment?
My hot water had lost its color before all of mine.
And that could depend on heat too. So, and we weren't very clear on those instructions as well. We just asked for hot water. So boiling water would go quicker than just hot tap water. And everybody's tap water is different too on heat. So, the control in this experiment's a little different, but we see hot water so far had done pretty quick. Isaac, what about you?
Oil, the peppermint it just stayed there, it didn't change.
That's right. Yep, our oil did not change. It didn't really do much of anything that I noticed. So,
vinegar was my second one to lose all of its color.
Okay. Vinegar
oil,
was
no change.
Okay, the oil, no
Cold
change.
water, the third one to lose its color, so.
Cold water, okay. All right. Here's mine at 5 minutes, what it looked like. So you can see the coffee cup is the hot water. You can see what's vinegar, and then the plastic cup is the cold water. Okay, as you can see here. And I just documented each couple of minutes. I would try to, so around 10 minutes, this is what it would look like at 10. And then at 25, if you'll notice the change, you can see slowly that peppermint's going away. So my hot water, it dissolved a lot quicker than the other, than vinegar and the cold water. And then this was kind of the end result, and put end of result, sorry about that. So all three of them did dissolve, and you can see here the vinegar still had a little bit left in there. You can kind of see that, whereas the cold has a little bit too, but for some reason my cold water, maybe it was a little bit more warmer than cold, it did dissolve quicker than the vinegar, which I was surprised by. So but probably we'll get a different result with this second time, so because it already looks like the vinegar is doing a little bit better. So, and I didn't use as much vinegar because I was trying to save some for this part. So but what was y'all's end result?
I said I saw that Abby wrote down her results. She was being a scientist.
Yeah, good job. So what was your end result? How did your sequence go?
For me, my sequence was the vinegar, but something I didn't mention, I was shaking it. I put the lid on it and I swirled it around. I think I might have made it melt faster than the others because I was messing with it.
Okay.
And my oil still has not changed. It's still brand new looking. I wonder how long we could keep it in there with no changes.
That'd be a good observation to see what happens as it goes.
I'll keep it here at the library so you guys can stop by and check it out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What about Bennett and Isaac and Abby? What was your sequence? What dissolved the quickest to we all have discovered oil did nothing. So what was that sequence for you?
I just left mine alone, and so
Okay.
I was working on something else, and I would look at it a few times, and then, yeah, so.
Okay. All right. So you didn't notice necessarily a sequence of which one dissolved the quickest. Is that what I'm understanding, right, Abby?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right. Bennett and Isaac, what about you guys?
Well, like the hot water, it was like, the peppermints are about that big.
Okay.
And like it shrunk down to like almost this big or so. Maybe like shrunk down the hot water and the cold vinegar, except for the oil. It didn't at all. Anything.
So now, Isaac, what about you?
The hot water was the fastest.
Looks like, so everybody whose hot water was the fastest, raise your hand just so you think it was the fastest. Majority that says hot water, looks like maybe your physical change, the shaking may have changed it, and we'll see with this the second one with my vinegar, but mine was the hot water as well. But vinegar and water, the cold water, were very close. I will say that. So it could go either way. So the main thing, did y'all notice anything else? Did you maybe smell something as they were changing or hear something?
So, mine were getting skinnier and having holes.
Okay. That's a good point. I smelled peppermint, so the smell, it smelled good to me, except for when I got the vinegar out. There was the smell was a little different with that one. But
they were getting like chips. Mine were getting chips.
Chips? Okay.
Yeah. Mine were starting to dissolve, so.
Breaking up?
Yes.
Okay. And if you've ever had a peppermint, you notice that too whenever you have the peppermint in your mouth. It does kind of the same thing. You'll feel the holes and different stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel 'em when I have some.
Okay, all right. I did notice a smell. I didn't necessarily hear anything other than the pouring of the water. Maybe the vinegar, there may have been a little fizz, but I didn't really see any of that. Did y'all hear anything
No.
from the experiment? No. And that could be key on some other experiments, is if you hear something, you know, that's important to document. So what could we do differently? We've talked about some things to make this more of a scientific experiment.
Oh, warming up the water was one.
Warming up the water and maybe communicating with each other on exactly how hot we're going to get the water so it stays the same for each test.
Miss Monica's not going to shake it next time.
Yeah, or we decide maybe have one. You could do a second experiment with seeing if that changed anything, the shaking, if that could be something you could add. What else
I
did you
got
say?
2 bags, so I might try that next time.
Yeah, see what shaking does. We could also try heating the oil. That could be our other thing, seeing if that changes anything. I would also say next time I'll be more exact on measurement of liquid, or maybe add a little bit more being a little clearer with how you do that. And something else I thought about is using the same bowls. I noticed we had some different looks. I saw a Rubbermaid container on one, and I think you used the plastic containers that were provided. So it's a little different on space and different. So that can make a difference, may not. But there's always, with an experiment, you can always do something different. And normally you do want to try to control one, so you want to keep it the same every time. And then you could change those other ones to see if it makes a difference. So where else might you find something? How could this be useful in your everyday life? Can you think of a way? How many of you like sugar? Like sugar? I like to eat sugar, drink sugar, and not drink sugar.
I don't like to eat it, but I'm candy.
Things. What contains sugar? Can we think about things that contain sugar? I can think of a couple.
Ice cream.
So many things.
Candy.
So this is one way I thought of it. You know, whenever y'all may not realize this, but sometimes when you go to a restaurant and you ask for sweet tea, for instance, they don't always have sweet tea, but they'll tell you they have sugar packets, right? Well, now we know cold water doesn't dissolve sugar as well as hot water. So when you're making something that you want to make sure the sugar is dissolved, heat can play a factor in that. So that's something to think about. When you're cooking sweet tea, for instance, I've always seen, you make sure to heat the tea before you put the sugar in. That's just one example I thought of how this science experiment could be used in
Cake and Kool-Aid.
life. Huh?
Cake and Kool-Aid can also have sugar.
Yes, and they've done something to their Kool-Aid because it has no problem dissolving in that water, the cold water. So that one you don't necessarily have to heat up, but there are certain ones when you're making certain things, you do have to heat up that sugar before you, or heat up the liquid that you're putting the sugar in order for it to dissolve, or it's going to take a while. So, all right. Did y'all learn anything else new today, or any other thoughts about this experiment?
I thought it was awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed putting this together today, and I hope you did too. And I'll give you one final shot of what the one looks like, in case maybe you're wanting to see. So this is the final one. So as you can see, there's the hot water. a big change from the last time I shared, if y'all noticed that. There's the cold water and vinegar, and then no change to oil.
No change.
Okay. All right, so that's kind of a final shot so you can see. And this is an easy experiment. Of course, you want parental supervision with the pouring and stuff, but it's definitely something you can add on to and change, add other candies, change the liquids, different stuff like that. And definitely let me, and I'm sure Miss Monica, know what you do and what you learn from it. So really, I just want to say thank y'all for being on. Wait.
We have the robot hand kits available and ready to be picked up. So if you haven't grabbed your robot hand yet, come see me, okay?
Awesome.
And Abby, I'll bring yours to you very soon, okay?
Okay.
And if you're interested in 4-H, feel free to contact me. I think my contact information is on some of the stuff that Miss Monica has given you. So feel free to contact me. I'd love to get you involved in our 4-H program, and hopefully I'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.